Decolonizing is making space for Indigenous people to share their stories in a safe way and to ask questions about what their expressions are about. What are they describing? My name is McLeod. I originally come from the Pas, Manitoba, and my ancestry is Scottish, immigrant, as well as Northern Cree, who worked together in the Hudson Bay Company fur trade. I've been living in Winnipeg for the last 40 years, focusing now around Indigenous knowledge, Indigenous language, cultural reclamation, primarily from the Ojibwe perspective. I work with an Ojibwe language mentor in doing my work in Winnipeg. Yeah, I've been with Creative Manitoba about 4 or 5 years, working and presenting workshops, but also helping with ceremony, like with smudging and teachings, which I think are very important. Art sort of flows in my family history, and so that was something I wanted to explore. And so today I continue my work, but more as an independent artist, cultural facilitator, with a focus on Indigenous perspectives on culture, philosophy, spirituality, and healing. And I interweave sort of the perspective of art, or how art is used to transmit that knowledge. In my work, I kind of go back into history and help artists understand how we got to where we are, some of the values we have about knowledge, particularly Indigenous knowledge, and then expression, which would include the arts. I kind of weave in that historic idea that, Indigenous people were artists. Art was very important to land-based survival and the transmission of culture. And also it's even more important today for this generation who is, interpreting the history, decolonizing and reconciling that past through their art. So I kind of provide artists with that pathway that goes from, pre-contact times into the colonial period and the more recent Indigenous resurgence. How I work with the non-Indigenous community is to explain some of the more complex and sophisticated social norms and protocols in engaging with Indigenous people, Indigenous knowledge, and how to have a good relationship in the community and having conversations about art theory, art expression, visions, and those kind of things. So it's more or less creating a good relationship with the community, with non-Indigenous artists, so they understand, that they're not sort of reaching certain protocols that are important, and sort of just guiding them in that way. Today, in terms of decolonizing, we have to step outside of our comfort zone, outside of our boxes, and go into the community and engage that way. And it's a learning process that is not going to be immediate, so we have to be patient and be clear about our intentions. And that, it's over time that we create this relationship. And in many cases, it's not a one-off. It's the beginning of a journey of learning and of sharing. And that's what I kind of see with artists. It is a reflection of our points of view or worldviews. But in decolonizing, it's making space for Indigenous people to share their stories in a safe way and to ask questions about what their expressions are about. What are they describing? Across Canada and North America, there's very diverse groups of Indigenous people that have distinct histories and protocols. The ones that we have in this region is about creating a relationship with the individual. We kind of really focus on, the foibles of being human. And in the Indigenous culture, we rely on the spiritual realm to guide us as well in what we do in our lives. So that's why these protocols are very important, because humans only have a certain range of view, whereas when we engage elements of the spiritual world, whether it's the plant world, the animal world, or the sky world, that can really change the dynamic. Well, I think having fun is probably at the top, and that, from the Indigenous perspective, life is generally about humor and enjoying your life. And again, I mentioned earlier being patient. Not everything is going to happen on a schedule that, is predetermined. And so being more flexible and fluid and letting the joy and the humor come into the work. And things will ultimately get done, but again, it should be a joyful process. And I think that's what art is about. It should be something that is joyful and fun. The second one is, I think, is being accurate, knowing your stuff, right? And studying and doing background research. A lot of times people just do superficial research about a particular topic or Indigenous group. That's why I said you really need to get out from behind your desk or studio or whatever and go into the community and spend some time there and learn about the social norms of that particular community. Third is there's always new knowledge. Indigenous history goes back tens of thousands of years, and colonization is relatively recent, 300 to 400 years. And so in this journey of exploration of our expression and history and vision, we can expect to find new things that other people have not seen before or heard before or experienced before. And so that's that sort of layering of history and relationship and spirituality. For the aspiring Indigenous artist, you carry inherent gifts, that have been passed forward to you by your ancestor, who live in art and lived in art every day. And to realize that was a gift from your ancestors, and it's in your hands, it's in your mind, it's your point of view about life. And so every day we have that opportunity to pick up those tools and begin to use them, and they will work. Whatever discipline in art that you're interested in, it will work because you carry that gift. It's in your DNA. There's a lot to express, so I think Creative Manitoba has been that vehicle for me. It has really been a great support to my work and is kind of an avenue where I get to balance the more intense work I do in community development with more of a creative outlet.